chats with Ads and Curls, and it's been a while. It's been a while since our last one, but we thought it was time to get these conversations, get these live videos, and just get our thoughts out to the world again. So, Curls, it's been a while since you've been on screen, even though they've been sharing. You've been sharing the videos I've been doing with the guys, but it's really good to see you. So, it sounds a bit weird, even though you're in the room next door. So right, today, what we're going to be talking about is just a conversation that me and Kels had yesterday. And we thought, no, you know what? We just need to elaborate. We need to get these conversations out to the world, because, if we see this over and over again, and it's just not serving anyone if we just keep these conversations within these four walls of where we live. And for us, it's the fact that people stop themselves before they even get going. They stop themselves. Now, like Kels, what's your thoughts on this? You've been in the chats with people, we were talking about this yesterday. I let you share it, but what do you like? What's your angle from this? Where people, they stop themselves, they put these barriers up even before they get started.
I think what I have experienced through having many conversations with clients and people in Messenger is what happens is we start to share a bit of information. We start to let our guard down a little bit. And we start to give, we start to open up, start to say, actually, this is what's been going on. Start to let loose. And all of a sudden it feels like a weight's been lifted. And that feels really good. But then there's this bit where it's like, oh, hang on a minute. That also feels like a bit vulnerable. The curtain's just been pulled back and it's like, oh, here I am, center stage. And whilst that does feel good, there's an element of that is like, oh my goodness, I'm not sure I'm ready to be seen. And what happens is when we get that far, we get on the stage, we start to let loose, we start to open up. It's all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is vulnerable. I'm not sure I'm ready, because also it comes with an identity. It's like, when was the last time, or was there even a time that these questions have been asked to me? Because most of the time especially in the health world, Ads, and I know you'd agree with this, whenever people, majority of the time, want to get help, want to get support, want to make a change, make that decision, they want a change with their health, it's quite uncommon that people actually get asked about themselves. It's usually they get told, oh, you want to lose weight. Right, you want to tick this box. You want to improve X, Y, Z. Okay, go away, here's what you need to do. And what happens is most people get used to getting the power, they get the information, which means that they don't actually take action, they don't implement. So when we flip the switch and we start asking questions, it's a whole new ball game. And at first it's easy, you go with it, but then all of a sudden you're like, whew, this is a lot, this is new, this has been who I am. And this could be for some people, since teens, it could have just been something that started to change. And that's all you've known for the last 20 years. It might not be that long. It could be a decade. It could just be 6 months, right? But equally, it's a form of vulnerability. And I think what happens is, in a very long-winded way, Ads, people start talking. It just feels uncomfortable. So stop, put the brakes on. I'm not comfortable, but it's more comfortable for me to stay where I am then actually take another step into, for me, for them, is the unknown.
Yeah, like that's the key point that you just said there. It's the unknown, right? It's the unknown. It's well, hang on a minute. Like, if I was to start, if I was to make a change, if I was to, do something, well, what's going to happen? Because the fact is that I know, if through all of my experience over the years of me wanting to make a change, that if I'm then just told what to do, if I do this or if I do that, and I don't make it work, because this is what we're talking with our clients here down our group call, is that when I then fail, it's familiar. It's the familiarity, and it's the unknown of, well, hang on a second. Like, first of all, Ads and Kels, like, you've been asking some not the normal questions. Like, we don't just go surface level. It's like, well, why? We go, like we say, we peel that onion and we go levels deep to actually find out about them and all of that. And then it's like, hang on, like, I've never been asked these questions. So I'm like you said, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable here. And now I'm faced with an opportunity to actually change. And it's like, oh, hang on a second. Well, now
you're at the cliff.
Yeah, now I'm at the cliff. Right? It's like, well, what's going to happen? How, like, oh, I'm not sure. Like, this is feeling a bit wobbly already with me at the edge of the cliff. It's like, well, what's going to happen? Am I going to fly or am I going to fall? And that's what it is. So I totally understand that. I really, really do. But the thing is, though, it's like sometimes you just have to jump. Sometimes you just have to, like we say, take those brakes off. Like from our own experience, right? I was just thinking about this a minute ago. And it's like when we first, when we first decided to move to Cyprus. Like me and you, like we had that, we had that idea, whilst we were on holiday in Mexico, that we wanted to live abroad. Then we decided to book up a holiday to Cyprus to scout it out, 3-week holiday. And then we made that decision to move 3 weeks later. And do you remember, like, people at the time, they were like, why are you taking action so fast? Like, surely you should think about it for at least 6 months.
Yeah, totally. And, I see both sides. It's like yin and yang, right? Good cop, bad cop. You've got someone who's like, no, you got to plan it all out, And the other person's like, no, just do it. Pull the curtain back, just go for it. Excuse me. That's our little one role playing with his new cars he's just got. I think the key thing is here, when you feel like that, like, we can relate it to us. We've done this a lot. We're pros at it. But I think for me, especially now that I have children, we have children, you realize how fast time goes. And you come to understand that time is precious. Time you cannot get back. And the clock is ticking. And you don't have control over that. So my question is to you, if you can relate, if you're thinking, yeah, that is me, I have many a times wanted to change, and then I stop myself. You just got to ask yourself, like, what is your goal in life? Like, the bigger picture. What do you want from life? What is it you want to go after? What is it you want to achieve? And can you do it in the current way you are? Can you do it with the current lifestyle you have, with the current feelings, with where you are? Because for me, I think the thought of not doing it, having regret, is far worse than going for it and making a change, because people make this mistake of thinking, it's fine. Like, if I don't do it, things will just stay as they are. But that's the problem. They never stay as they are. We get worse or we get better. We don't just stay the same, especially when it comes to health. And you've just got to say, do you know what? If I keep going in this trajectory, where am I going to end up? What's life going to look like? So yes, it can be scary, making the step into the unknown, but the reality is it's actually far more scary to not.
Exactly, right. And again, like you just said there, people think that, well, I'm just going to stay how I am. Well, you don't, because you're getting older, right? So
things get harder.
So things are going to get harder, and also, for some people, especially like when it comes to their health, like, your health never stays the same. It's either going to improve or it's going to get worse. It's like people, if you were to do the same behaviors and the same habits that you're currently doing, like, you don't stay in the same place. Because if you look over the last 5 years, well, where has your health gone over those last 5 years with you doing exactly the same thing? Were you the same way? Was your blood markers the same? Was your cholesterol the same? Was your blood sugars the same? What was your sleep like 5 years ago compared to where it is now? So has that improved or has it got worse? So if it's got worse, well, things aren't going to stay the same, are they? They're going to continue getting worse. And then, it's then going to get harder because you're then getting hard, because you're getting older. And also those behaviors are now being reinforced because of the time that you've been doing it. So then it, becomes a stronger belief for you.
Mom.
So it's like we say, it's like you just need to take action. You just need to start.
Dad.
Yeah, Dad, just having a chat. You just need to start. But also, like, as well, of course, all those things are really important that Ad's just listed. They're life-changing, literally, but also just like on a basic level, like your ability to handle stress. What's your nervous system like? The state of your central nervous system. Are you able to regulate that? Because as we get older, I know for sure your fuse gets shorter unless you do the work to put the habits in place. It's not easy. It's not easy when, you've got kids, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. It's not easy whether you're managing a team, whatever that looks like. But just the ability to regulate yourself, be calm, that all has a massive impact. Stress has a huge impact. And that alone for me is a driving force to want to invest in myself daily, to be able to regulate myself, because how things are like now compared to 10 years ago are harder. It's only going to get harder. So surely you want to be in the best physical, mental space possible.
And also they're different, right? 10 years ago, we didn't have kids. It was just me and you.
Exactly. And I thought life was hard then.
No, but that's the thing, right? Like things change.
Yeah, it's always changing.
And this is the thing. It's like when people say, "Oh, I just need to wait until I've got time." It's like, well, the fact is that the amount of free time that you get as you get older actually diminishes until you then actually hit retirement, and then your time's then filled with with other things as well. Then anyway, so it's not that you just wake up one morning and you get free time. It's like, no, you just need to adapt and you need to move because things have changed.
Yeah, exactly that. Things have changed. And I just want people to see, like, it's okay to actually be like, rather than put the brakes on, maybe just take a pause and be like, what is it? Just like sit with those feelings. So if you know that you've actually been having those conversations, they're actually enjoying it, but then you pause, or you say, I'm just going to put the brakes on. Rather than do that, just take a moment, take a day, be like, what am I feeling here? Am I feeling nervous? Am I just feeling a bit vulnerable? Be like, well, those things are all okay. But what is the goal of asking these questions, and where is it I want to be? Just lean into it and just say, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to get clarity over what it is I've been holding in and feeling for so long. And then I might get some actionable steps that I can take to implement for me to move forward and start feeling better. Like, those are the worst case scenarios, which actually, when you flip it, are the best case scenarios for you.
And also, like you say, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? What's the worst case scenario? And if we just take a look at like what we did, over the last 8 years, we wanted to move abroad, so we did. Right? We jumped, we took those steps. The things that people probably thought that we should have thought about, may not have happened. And then we were then faced with other situations. So, how many times did we move? It was like 4 times in 3 months or 5 times in 3. It's something really crazy, right? We moved an awful lot, property wise, when we first moved, which we wasn't, expecting. And the things that came up didn't happen. We couldn't have planned for that. And then,
if we had known that,
and then the worst case scenario is that we then move back to the UK, which which I thought was a funny thing to do, didn't I? I thought, I had this bright idea of, we got to this point. It was like, well, is Cyprus really for us? Like 2.5, 3 years in, is it really the right thing for us? So I was like, you know what, guys, let's just move back to the UK. That's where we want to be. Jude, I wanted you, you wanted to give birth Jude, you know, around family and just have that little bit of extra support and all of that. So we did. But then as soon as we moved back, we realized that was the wrong decision. So even us not putting the brakes on and moving back to the UK, that was the wrong decision. So what do? We just made the decision to move back to Cyprus. You know, and that's the thing, you know, like you can't move yourself unless you're moving. You know,
because action gives the clarity.
Exactly.
Action gives you the feedback. But if you just don't allow yourself to move, and also that's just like mental torture, because you just have the same narrative, the same dialogue on repeat. It's like that song you can't get out of your head. And you're like, oh, the only way to shift it is change the station.
That's it.
It's exactly the same for you. So you just have to, so we love, get out your own way.
That's it.
Crack on. Life's short. Your health deserves it. You deserve it. You deserve to feel your best. I feel like so
well, it's not just the thing is though, it's not just about, you know, it's not just about your health that you need to make decisions on. You know, it's about everything, isn't it? It's about work, it's about relationships, it's about locations, it's about everything, you know, like don't just think about this, that it's just about your health.
Yeah, but you can't make those decisions until you start feeling a little bit better, a little bit calmer, a little bit clearer, have a little bit more confidence. And those all come from doing things for you first, right?
Exactly. Which then leads me on to, I just want to share, like we've had a comment come on who, and it's from James, right? It's James. I spoke to James on Reclaim Your Edge podcast. I had him on a few weeks ago, which was really, really cool. Good morning, Adam and Kerrie. Micro stresses adding up during the day can affect us and lead to a major blowout for no reason. Exactly. It's like a volcano, right?
And we all have different ways of dealing with those, don't we?
Yeah. Like some people, they just have an absolute explosion and they start rowing, slamming doors and, you know, doing that. Or other people, they go inwards or they hit the bottle, they hit the alcohol, they hit the drugs, you know.
They hit the fridge.
Yeah, that's it, right? Or they, you know, whatever, right? And he then also says, important as Kerrie said, to learn how to regulate our emotions 100%.
Exactly, James. And that just comes back to, like I simply said, like when people do feel vulnerable, like, oh, I'm going to put the brakes on. We're like, we live in a world of instant gratification. It's like feeling a feeling, don't want to feel it, quick, let's go into something else. So I don't want to feel that. That's uncomfortable. I'm going to go get something to eat. That's uncomfortable. I'm going to go pour me a drink. That's uncomfortable. I'm just going to go and play a video game.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Doom scroll, whatever, you know, all of these sorts of things. And also like James's first-hand experience. Like I met James in Athlone last year when I got asked to speak on the Out of the Blue Expo over in Ireland. And he came up to me afterwards and we was having this conversation, and you know, like he was telling me that he was in the Garda and all of that, and he was coming up to this point where he wanted to, you know, he's got some more free time and he wants to, you know, get into his executive coaching program and all of that. And, you know, he was putting the brakes on. Like he was firsthand putting the brakes on. And I just said to him, just start. Do it. Like when are you going to start it? And it was because he then made that decision. You know, I'm not just, you know, saying it because it's, you know, here, but I did, you know, like I held him accountable. And I was like, when are you going to get started then? And it's from that conversation that he did. And now look at it, you know, from, you know, just that one conversation, he then started his, you know, his executive coaching business. You know, he, since then as well, he's been a keynote speaker as well at an expo, at an event as well. It all came from him having that conversation and also being held accountable. So James, like, well done on, you know, it's great that you're there. And honestly, it's so good to see as well, because you're proof that, you know, don't put the brakes on. Don't put the brakes on and actually let those brakes go and put the foot down on the accelerator. So well done.
And, you know, on that, I'm just going to say, through James doing that, which is awesome. I love hearing things like that. That just shows the power of conversations. And that's where I think Ads and I got our frustration. It's like, we want to bring this to light, is because they stop themselves. And it's really, if you just keep going and you just have that conversation, it's just so lightening. You're like, oh, that feels good. And then you do get a little bit of confidence. And then that's what then leads to the action, which then allows you to start feeling better. And you're like, oh my goodness, why didn't I start this ages ago? Which 9 times out of 10, every person feels.
Exactly. And it's the thing is, though, it's like, well, if he didn't take that action, if he didn't, after that conversation, he just went away and was like, well, that was a nice conversation. If he just said that, then what do you think his thought process is going to be like, in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years time? He would have been sat there like, yeah, I wish I did that. I wish I did actually take action and do that. So James, well done on not putting those brakes on and taking that action and not having that regret, because that is all that's going to happen. Is if you don't take action, is that later on you just get that regret, and then sometimes you also get that resentment as well.
But can we just tap into that quickly? Like, I don't want people sitting there listening to this who think, okay, but I'm a lot older now, so it's just not possible. Like, don't let your age be a reason why you don't like it. You're never too old. It's never too late to start. Like, age is just simply a number you were given at birth. It means nothing. It's how you look at yourself. It's how you view yourself. It's the things you do to look after yourself. So please don't put age, don't put work, don't put all these limiting things on yourself. Like, if you want it enough, you can make it happen.
Exactly. And there he is again, James. Adam's exact quote: "Stop waiting for everything to be perfect."
What is perfect?
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? Perfect in your eyes is going to be completely different to someone else's perception of perfect. Like, that's what it is. So again, it's like, like what is perfect? And again, it's just going to be perfect for that one moment anyway. So James, thank you.
Okay.
Right, guys. I think it's a good point to finish this little episode of Coffee and Chats. And it is something that we want to be getting back to do regularly. So
we are going to be doing this.
Yeah, that's it. We are going to be doing this regularly as well. We're going to be doing this regularly. Like, we used to really enjoy this. We used to really enjoy these years ago. Like when it was just me, Kels, and Blake, wasn't it? Like having him come on. Like we had Jude in the background. Like in the past, we used to have little Blakey in the background as well, and then Reese. Yep, she was just normally asleep in these ones. So it is good to have these back. And please just join us. And if there's anything that you would like us to just have an open conversation, just get our views and opinions out there. And, even if that just gives you some clarity, then, please just send me or Kels a message and we will happily discuss it, because as you can probably tell, we do like to talk. So thank you for joining us, Kels. Thanks for coming on and, getting these started again. Really, really do enjoy these. And we will see you on the next episode of Coffee and Chats. And if you do want to catch up on this one or any of the previous ones, go to our YouTube, which you can click on the link below this video. And you can also catch up and see what we were chatting about all those times before. And also you can also catch up with interviews with men that have also made that decision not to put the brakes on and to actually make a change. And you can see the impact that it has not only on their health and also their lives, but also those of the lives around those men as well. So we will see you on the next episode.